I wish I could help, but I'm probably worse.
Yeah, it's, that light is, that's all right. Maybe I'll look like an angel with this light behind me, you
There
know.
you go. Way to find the silver lining.
Yeah.
I don't
Well-
know if you're already talking about the angels fighting.
Yeah, I just got off the phone with George a couple minutes ago, and he's in the hospital because his back is just total pain.
Oh no.
And he hates it. Everybody does, but he's getting morphine to help with the pain in his back. It's that bad.
How long has he been in there?
Since yesterday.
Mm.
And he told me a couple days ago that he was planning on being here tonight. He had some things he wanted to share. And but that he knew that they already had filled out the paperwork for him to go back into rehab. Well, then it sounds like he went to sit down on the bed and missed. And he said it jolted his back, and then he questioned that word, which I said, no, that's the perfect word for what happened. And so he's had a number of doses of morphine, and so he regrets that he's not going to be here tonight. And I said, a lot of times God's timing is different than ours. And so, you know, maybe in a couple months, because he's talking, at one point he said that if he gets out of rehab before October, he'll be surprised. Now, you know, there's 10 days left in August and 30 days in September. So, you know, I mean, I have no idea. But he doesn't want to be there. He said Nicholas's birthday is Friday, and he wanted to be with them for his 21st birthday. So, yeah. So a lot going on. And I said, well, you know, maybe they'll do surgery, maybe medicine, maybe therapy. And he said, well, they've already ruled out surgery because it's too close to the spine. And, you know, so, you know, dealing with nerves that close to the spine apparently would be problematic potentially. So, you know, you don't want to leave him with less capability than when he went in, if at all possible, of course. So that's kind of up to the minute with George. He did say, would you come see me? It's kind of lonely staring at these four walls.
Now where is he?
Where's he at?
Riverside. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, I think
So
that
he's-
was,
so he's open to visit.
yeah.
Okay.
I think that was in the email that he put that he was at
Is
Riverside.
Victoria still here?
I was gonna ask that too. Or
She
did
is.
leave? Oh, she hasn't
She
left
is,
yet?
yeah.
When is she leaving for school?
Supposed to be soon, right?
Yeah, it was supposed to be. I don't remember exactly what he said, but my impression is that she might not go to school this semester, or she might go more locally. Well, and she talked about other plans. I don't know,
Okay.
you know, what will turn out, so I'm not gonna put her in a box where this is what she said, so, you know, that kind of thing. But, yeah. I'd like to share tonight some of what's happened with me, and Sharon's here as well with us, over the last, I'll say, 6 weeks or so. You know, I'd planned on doing that, and George had planned on sharing. So after I get finished, if you have any questions for me, that's great. But, you know, if you have something you'd like to share as well, because I know a lot of things happen in our lives, and, you know, getting to share with the group is good. I have to admit that while certainly we've had difficulties in our lives, Sharon and myself, they've really been pretty small. Now, you know, being a pastor for 46 years, you know, we have to deal with church people, and church people have to deal with us. So I don't know who has it worse. Well, somebody once asked what I thought the worst job in the church was, and I said, that's easy, being the pastor's wife. And they said, really? I said, yeah. Not only does she have to put up with me, but she has to put up with all of you too. And I always get nervous laughs when I say things like that, like, oh yeah. But, well, it wasn't 6 weeks ago, it was a month ago yesterday. We were on vacation up in Indiana, And we'd been to Michigan, got to spend some time with my folks. We had our 10-year-old grandson with us, and came down from Michigan down to Fort Wayne, Indiana, and spent some time with Sharon's dad, and he wasn't feeling well enough to come to the family reunion. So we went a little bit farther south and farther west to Lafayette, Indiana. That's the area that Sharon was born in. I don't think she remembers much of it from when she was born, but you know, she was very young then. So on the Saturday, we left from Fort Wayne and headed down, went to the park where the family reunion was, couldn't find a parking spot. First of all, we had to find the area where Sharon's family was gathering. We did. Right up the side street, half a block, there was a place to park. So we parked there, walked down to the family reunion, had a very nice time, 3, 4, 5 hours, whatever it was. Just a real great gathering. She comes from a wonderful family. And so at the end of the day, you know, we go up and we're gonna stay with Sharon's cousin and family. They have a nice big house and their kids are out of the household at this point. And so as we get to the car, I go around to the driver's door and I open it up and I get in, and I'm feeling something weird on my elbow as I'm getting in, and I hear Sharon say in a very clear voice, not the kind of voice you're going to hear through a window. I hear, "Oh no, who did this?" or something to that effect, and I look and I can see her perfectly, as in not through a window. Somebody had broken the window out, had gone into the glove compartment and took our travel money, took Sharon's big orange purse and her wallet. I had a cell phone laying right there on the center console. My briefcase with my computer was in the back. Grandson's tech was all there, Sharon's computer too maybe. And they left all that. Well, they're all trackable, traceable. And so, now, where we were sitting at the family reunion, we could see the car the whole day. But you know, you get moving around and talking to people and, you know, that kind of thing. And there was just the right position where if the person came up on the side of the car, that we wouldn't have seen just because of the angle of the car and where we were sitting. And so we had no idea. And some of the family members came up to the car and they looked around, looked in every trash can within a couple of blocks to see if maybe the purse had gotten thrown away. And and the rest of this story is, or this part of the story, that we couldn't get it fixed before we got on the road Monday morning. But one of the independent glass places did what they call crash wrap. So they plastic wrapped, it was like super thick saran wrap that had sticky on the inside. And so double, triple wrap the window, and so for 13 hours the next day, we got to hear.
I'm sure.
Oh yeah, so that part was fun. But it rained, and the rain didn't get in, and no bugs or vultures or anything flew in, so you know, it was good, it was fine. So we got home. Early the next week, we took a trip to West Virginia, and it kind of a strange story. We had a blind lady that had been attending our church, and she wanted to move to Illinois. So we took her to West Virginia. Wasn't that nice of us? Well, her sister came from Illinois and met us and took her the rest of the way. Took the truck and the blind lady and her daughter. And so we came back on Thursday, and on Friday, I had a meeting in the morning. I cut grass, part of the grass. And while I was cutting grass, I passed out. A couple guys across the street looked, and they were there only because my neighbor was getting ready to have a party that evening. And she has, what are they, cloggers, I think?
Yeah.
That come to her house. She's got a nice big room with a wooden floor, and they come to her house, and so she has parties with them and whatever, cloggers of all things. And so, anyways, these guys saw me fall down, heard the lawnmower make kind of a weird noise and whatever, and so they came over, dragged me under a small tree, and were trying to give me water. They thought it was heat related, you know, because it was a very hot day. And well, they knocked on the door. My son works from our house, and so he came out, realized what had happened. And so he cleared my airway. Peanut butter and jelly sandwich just didn't belong there. Started CPR. One of the guys noticed, he joined him to do CPR. And I've told people that I'm glad that amateurs were doing it instead of professionals, because professionals would have broke my ribs. And while my chest was certainly sore after it, it was nothing like broken ribs, I'm sure. And also across the street, there was a woman who was a retired nurse. She came over and made sure they were doing CPR the right way. The ambulance came, they used the paddles twice, got my heart pumping again, took me to the hospital, Centera Hampton General, they're excellent. The cardiologist came in, whatever test they did, they found out I had 100% blockage on the right side of my heart, and did a heart cath and cleared it, put a stent in. And one thing I'll tell you is that 2.5 years ago when I had COVID, at the very end of COVID, I started getting very emotional. And I think it was the fatigue and the physical trauma and the emotional trauma of just going through a lot more than what I was accustomed to going through. And I told somebody my COVID wasn't too bad, and Sharon just rolled her eyes like, yeah, right.
That's because you're taking care of
Yeah, so I've been very emotional since this. But it's been interesting because I've not had a moment of depression or distress. Now, I'm not Superman, and I know that that could easily happen still. You know, because when we have a major event, sometimes the numbness that we have helps kind of protect us. And when I get to the third part of the story with my dad, my mom's going through that right now, where she feels pretty good, but I know it's going to hit her later on. We'll get to that in just a second. So I spent 4 days in the hospital and came home, had a hard time sleeping. Every time I rolled over, my chest hurt, and what, like I say, but I've been so thankful and appreciative. And I see God at work in the people who are around me. The fact that I fell in the front yard instead of the back. If it was the backyard, it would have been too late. When I started waking up the next day because of anesthesia, sedative with the surgery and everything, my hands were tied and I had a breathing tube in. Now, good for them. Good for them. I was just about done with the breathing tube, but I kind of pick at things. And so they said while they were doing the heart thing, and they went in through my elbow, not through my groin. A lot of heart cath and stuff has been through the groin to this point, but they went in through my elbow up to the heart, and so they had to tie this one. I couldn't bend that one. So I was fine with that as long as it needed to be. But, well, as I start to wake up, I look around, and this isn't my bedroom.
Right.
And that stuff looks like it goes in a hospital. And I look, and my Marine son, my second son, was there, and he walked through the room. And it's like, when I saw him, because we don't see him up here very often, and I said, I must be in trouble.
Yeah, really.
So Sharon came in, and I started doing sign language. Now, I'm not very good at sign language, and apparently she's not very good at reading my bad sign language. So I started doing W-H-A-T-H-A, how do you do P? I don't know.
Yeah.
What happened? So they tell me, and well, maybe I first said, where am I? And then what happened? And then I said, did anyone finish cutting the grass? And the look on Sharon's face says, I probably went a little too far. That gallows humor again, And so then I went J-O-K-E, joke. And come to find out, between my son-in-law and my son, they did finish the grass, but it could grow 2 feet tall at this point. I'm not going to worry about it. But so on Monday evening, I got to go home, and a lot of fatigue, a little bit of pain, a lot of getting used to new meds that I've never taken before. Don't like them. A new diet. Darn, they love me too much for my own good. But, Monday I had a meeting downtown, so I drove for the first time. And I had a couple doctor's appointments, and I said to the cardiologist, when can I drive again? And he made a mistake. He really did. He said, well, I can't really prohibit you from driving.
Yeah, really, that's.
But, I'm trying to be smart about it. And, if I'm compromised, I'm not going to drive. So I've done okay this week. Got to make a couple of hospice visits today and down 664. So a week after I had and I've been calling it a heart incident or a heart event or whatever. I'm not denying that. And one of the guys that comes to our church used to work as a physician's assistant in a cardiologist's office. And he said, well, technically you didn't have a heart attack, you had a cardiac arrest. Well, that makes me feel a whole lot better. Thanks a lot. Yeah, good, yeah. But it doesn't seem like there's that much damage to my heart. Now, I'm no fool until the doctor tells me this is what the amount of damage was. I don't really know. But I've functioned okay, in these days. So a week after my heart event, my dad was out cutting his grass. And he passed out and he died.
Oh, no. Really?
Yeah.
To the day.
Yeah, my mom and a neighbor, were trying to do CPR on him. Ambulance came. They used the paddles numerous times and couldn't get his heart going again. And my dad had valve replacement surgery back in January, and he decided not to do cardio rehab, and that was his prerogative. He had his own reasons, and my mom too. But part of my mom's exercise program for Dad included cutting the grass, and and there are lots of times that you just have to look at it and say it was his time, whether he was cutting the grass or sitting watching Hee Haw or whatever he watches, Fox News. That time may have come no matter what.
Yeah.
And so I can't worry about it. I gave the best advice I could. They went a different way. Who knows? It may have helped him live longer by doing what he did. But anyways. So, and Dad's service will be in about a week and a half up in Michigan. So the 31st. And so we'll go up for that. And it looks like all 14 of my dad and mom's grandchildren are going to be there. 9 grandsons who will be the pallbearers. And I don't think all the great-grandkids, as a matter of fact, I'm sure that all of them won't be there because my son will be going by himself. His wife just had a gallbladder surgery that was a much more serious gallbladder than most. From what I've seen as a fellow patient in that area as well as a pastor. But she's doing fine now, so that's a good thing about it. But anyways, his 2 sons won't be with him. So it's kind of time for an evaluation, isn't it? Kind of a step back, and you look at it and you say, well, wait a minute. Bad things aren't supposed to happen to good people, are they? Now, I'm not going to push this idea that I'm a good person. I know me. And the Bible accurately describes people like me as sinners. And so I'm not going to tell you how wonderful I am. I make my mistakes. And but we strive to help others and to be a good witness in our Christian faith and those kind of things. And my dad, an elder in his church and a longtime pastor and church planter and like that. But in a way, I look at my dad's passing as his reward. One of the main scriptures in his life has always been for me to live as Christ and to die as gain. And the 4 of us kids will take care of Mom. And that's already in the works. My brother lives up in Richmond. He's been working out of Mom's house for the last couple of weeks just to be there with her. My two sisters also going above and beyond. I feel terrible that I can't be there, but I got to take care of me first from a health standpoint. And if I don't, I'm not going to be any use to them at all. So we're getting there, and by the time we get up there, it'll be 4 weeks, I think, since the event. But when I look at it, bad things do happen to good people. And as far back as I believe it was the prophet Habakkuk, that question was asked of God by the prophet. Why do bad things happen to good people, and why do bad people prosper? Was another part of that. Well, none of us is going to live forever on this earth. And sometimes going to be with the Lord early is a reward. Now, I said to Sharon a few nights after I got home, I said, I'd have been fine leaving, but I'm so glad I got to stay. Now, it's up to you all to decide if I have more brain damage than I used to have. Well, that was a possibility, right? I don't know how long I was out or how effective the CPR was. Apparently pretty effective, I think. You'll have to tell me if I'm fooling myself, you know. So why do bad things happen to good people? Number one, God gives us free will. And sometimes other people's free will infringes on us. And sometimes with our own free will, we negatively impact our lives. Not going to worry about that part of it right now, but I firmly believe that's a big part of life. Number two, my observation is that God lets nature take its course. Yes, we pray. We pray for God's protection, for God's help. We don't know how often God does protect us and help us. I think it's pretty often. But there are just times that God lets nature take its own course. I can't tell you how many times over the years I've prayed for people who were dying of cancer and they still died. And as much as I was close to some of them, others I never met, you're probably in the same position I am that way. For whatever reason, God allowed nature to take its course. We know that God brings good out of bad. And losing someone, and especially many circumstances, loss of a child, for example, somebody having much pain before they die. I mean, these are things that are horrible. And there are some people who will say, well, either God isn't powerful or he isn't loving. Because if he was powerful, he could stop this. And if he was loving, he would want to stop it. I don't think God lacks love. He gives us free will and lets us use it to the best of our ability. He gives us life. We live in an age where there is more medical help than there has ever been in the history of the world. And yet, people still die. I think that God lets nature take its course because if he didn't, we would take God for granted. Now, many people do, or many people ignore God or deny that he exists. I understand that. But there's, a part of humanity within each of us that we know there's something greater than ourselves. You look at the way God or gods or nature are worshipped all around the world. And today in America, nature as a god has become a significant factor instead of the one true God, in my observation. I believe that God uses bad things to teach us, to help us, to grow us. And many times we learn through the things we experience. Now, I don't believe that there's anyone that I've met in this group or for a long time that I would say has a disease like Parkinson's because they deserve it. I believe that there's more suffering in the world because there's more sin in the world, but I'm not talking about individual sin. I'm not saying, you're sick or you're sick or you're sick because you are a sinner. Otherwise, we'd all have Parkinson's, right? And so, but I believe that in this world of ours, when we have so much that is a benefit to us, that we forget to worship God. And I'm not talking about any individual, I'm talking about as humanity, that God has pushed aside. Oh wow, I just thought of an old song. Maybe some of you heard the song about the lighthouse. You know, if it wasn't for the lighthouse, where would this ship be? There's a part of it that says that the big ships don't come by here anymore, or this little lighthouse and I feel like that's so true. And it's an old song, at least 50 years old. And I feel like our world is that way a lot of times. And so the good that can come out of the bad, in part, is for people to look back to God, maybe as the only solution or the best solution at certain points in life. Well, I started out talking about how little that I personally have suffered over the years compared with so many others. And, I've lost all 4 of my grandparents. I think my grandpa Scott was the youngest when he died. He was 69 or 70 years old. That used to be really old, but I'm 66 now, so it's getting younger every day. It's getting younger. The rest of my grandparents were in their 70s or 80s, and I was 18 or almost 19 when my grandpa Scott died, so I knew him very well and had a relationship with all 4 of my grandparents. So many things that other people suffer. I was talking with a man yesterday, one of our elders at church, who lost both of his parents by the time he was 13 years old. And to see the life he's made out of it is wonderful. To take the lemons that life gave him and turned it into lemonade, so to speak. But one of the things about my last month is that I can identify better with people who go through times of suffering, because I've had a lot more. Most of the suffering in my life, other than dealing with church people and a few minor health things, have happened in the last month. Now, I'll never understand Parkinson's unless I have it. And even if I do, each one of you, your Parkinson's is different. So I might understand a little bit more about George's because I've talked to him a little bit more, and my brother-in-law because, we talked to him. But just to understand that there are a lot of things that we have no control over, but God is in our lives, and I believe He helps us every day. It's important for us to keep looking to Him. I'm stating my opinion and my view, but I hope it helps. I understand suffering a lot better, a lot differently now, and I know a lot of you are going through a lot more. So I don't know if you have any questions for me or comments. It's I got through without crying. This is maybe I don't mind being emotional. I just hate for anyone to see it.
It's terrible to be human.
Well said, Kathy. Thank you.
We've had a similar situation in our family. Ron has a daughter who is 58 years old, and her sister actually is who called us and said, Susan's in the hospital. She went in the hospital today. They're looking to do surgery. So to back up a little bit on hers, she said she was out of breath sometimes. She was very fatigued. She felt like maybe a book was on her chest, all which sound like classic heart symptoms.
Right.
But she's a caretaker for her mom. She just has she's been a diabetic for 40 years. She's since 18 years old.
Yeah. And
so she was not hearing that until, I don't know what precipitated her going to the heart doctor. She said, I failed miserably the stress test, which, the stress-induced stress test.
Right.
He said, I need to do a heart cath on you 1 week from today. She comes back, he does the heart cath, and he's saying, well, young lady, looks like you're going to be in for triple bypass. And she said, what? And he said, you have over 90% blockage in 3.
Yeah.
So that was on a Tuesday, put her right in the hospital, because she was like a walking, just a
time bomb.
as you were.
Yeah.
So she was in the hospital on Tuesday, and we were alerted at that point that she's in the hospital and she's gonna have to have the surgery, not sure when, because they've got to set, you get those things set up.
Right.
So it was set for Thursday morning. That's pretty quick, I think, from finding out on Tuesday afternoon.
Yeah, sure.
So Thursday morning, 8 hours, her husband was there, and every 2 hours, someone would come out and tell him something, you know, how she's going along,
Yeah,
as
yeah.
expected, blah, blah, and so on. So 8 hours later, she had 3 bypass surgery. She
Yeah.
was surprised that they took them out of her right leg because as a diabetic, she has circulation things, and she's lost a couple of toes in the right leg, but apparently up here, the
Yeah.
orange
so
or
good.
Yeah.
greens or whatever they are, they take out,
Yeah.
we're the best.
Yeah, God gave us spare parts.
Yeah,
Isn't that
yes,
amazing?
it's very, I'll do a little aside to that, took 4 out, she only needed 3, so we teased her about what happened. We say it's in a special
Put it
jar,
in a jar.
Susan, that special jar says, Susan, really good stuff here, you know, you wanna use this for next time, you know, and so
Yeah,
on.
yeah.
Carrie would
But,
put it out there.
that's right, but at any rate, so that was we kept hearing this was Thursday, Saturday, she was supposed to have been in ICU or whatever for 3 days. Like the next day, she was already in a room, she had her walking, so we said, we're going to see her. So we went down on Sunday afternoon and spent from Sunday afternoon until Tuesday when she went home.
Yeah,
When she went home. I think her continuing recovery is due to see her daddy, but that's just
yeah.
mine.
Yeah,
And here's
sure.
something interesting, I do not know where Susan stands in her faith
Sure,
at all.
sure.
Really, I mean, I know she's a good person and a wonderful gal, I do not know what her relationship is with the Lord.
Yeah.
But she said when she went into surgery, there was someone there with holding her hand, but she said there was some other entity holding my arm, and she said, I know it was the Lord.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
I know it was the Lord,
yeah.
and of course we agreed.
Yes. Well, the good that comes out of bad is that,
Right,
and her having a much longer life now because it was found and treated.
yes, oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So she's doing really well. So this was the 25th of July, and so
Yeah.
we're almost at a month now. And she's
Wonderful.
doing- every day she's saying, at first it was like, well, I have good days and bad days, you know, I feel good one day, and she said, now I'm having more good days than
Yeah.
bad. That was a couple of days
Wonderful.
ago. She said, I'm definitely on the mend. But
Yeah.
of course, you know, with the break, doing the whole thing,
Yeah,
you know, it'll be at least 6 months before that,
Yeah.
all of that's
Yeah.
recovered, fully recovered.
they didn't have to crack my chest and they
No,
didn't take
see.
anything out of my legs.
Right, no, yours recovery should
So,
have been,
yeah,
Yeah.
much different, yeah,
but you only had the one, right? There was the others not.
yeah, yeah.
One big,
This-
there was,
Yeah.
Well, one
Yeah.
was,
And-
well, hers sounded pretty
well, they were,
good.
Yeah. Yeah, and the doctor hypothesized that there was already a narrowing there,
Uh-huh,
and that probably the extra stress on my body with it being a hot day and cutting the grass, that something like broke away inside my system and got caught there
Right.
and created that clog.
right,
So I don't think I was walking around with 100% blockage, but it could have been 90. I mean,
Yeah.
who knows?
yeah.
Yeah,
One of the good things is that the heart muscle itself was very good. It's this, she has vascular disease.
right,
Someone
Right.
else I know has vascular disease.
right, right.
Yeah, so and we don't know how it is with his heart, but he has a renal stent for
Yeah.
his one kidney that's.
Yeah.
So he is, so she comes by that naturally,
Yeah, yeah.
honestly,
Yeah,
but, and she said, I knew that
Yeah.
one of the 3 of us probably would be struck with something that our dad has, you know,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
her attitude has been good, but I was just, it made me feel really good that she was well aware that the Lord was with her, and of course, all the prayers were with her, because we, you know, get that prayer chain going
yeah,
That's right.
yeah, that's
to
right.
surround her
Yeah,
with the prayers.
yeah. Sunday morning, I told my congregation that many of them were certainly praying for me before I knew I needed prayer.
Correct.
Because I didn't wake up till the next morning.
Yeah.
And at that point, I started becoming aware.
Right.
And,
And she said, you know, when you have a surgeon who says to you, before you go into the surgery, you do know that things could not go quite right, you might not make it through.
Right,
And she
right.
said, I know, you know, so she
Yeah.
was, you know, well, I know it seems like, but, I mean, it's a realistic thing to say, and I think it's sort of the thing to say that,
Yeah.
I hope you think everything's together.
Yeah, yeah.
Because this is a serious time, but it was very serious, but we were so glad we could stay with her. We were going to stay at my daughter's house, that had stairs and all, and I said, well, we can work with them, and my other daughter called, and she said, no.
Yeah.
There was a Marriott about 2 miles away, a residence inn that had a kitchen and all that, she said, that's where you're staying, so
Yeah.
she has lots of points with that, so there's no problem. So that was relieved, that part of it, that we knew we could stay Saturday night and Sunday night, and I mean, Sunday night and Monday night and be comfortable and
Yeah,
and
yeah,
so on. But most of the time we spent there, didn't we?
yeah,
So we wanted to be there.
Sure.
yeah. A lot of times, we have to be where the action is. You know, we have to be where whether we feel like we can do a lot of good or a little good, if we can do a little good, we wanna be there.
I think it did a lot of good for both of them. and for
Yeah.
me too.
Yeah.
That's good. Well, we're so glad you're here, that's,
Yeah,
Oh my goodness.
well, me too.
thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, like you said, it easily could have turned out a lot differently, you know, for us, and
Yeah.
so we were over at the Ace Hardware store on Nickerson, not far from our house. And the door handle on one of our bathrooms quit working, it would just spin.
Mm.
So my son, the one who started CPR on me, put the ladder up, he was able to get in the bathroom window, got the door open. So we went over to get a door handle to replace it. And from across the store, we hear a woman's voice, "You're a walking miracle!" I'm like, who's she talking to? Like, you know, I want to see this, you know, who is she talking about? This woman comes over, she had a vest on that was obvious that she worked there. And she said, "Our church prayed all Sunday for you." And well, come to find out, it was the church where I had served for 19 years. And we didn't know her, she was newer to the church. The end of this month will be 10 years with the church in Norfolk, so.
They must have put up your picture.
I was gonna say,
That's
how did she
the only thing.
recognize you and say, oh, there's
Yeah.
that?
Well, I have this wee, quiet little voice, and so when I talk about things, somehow people hear me. I don't get it.
Yeah. That is
Uh,
good.
yeah, so I may have said something about having been in the hospital, and
Maybe.
so, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you don't know the extent of those.
No, that's right,
Prayers.
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe they took my picture off that dartboard. and showed it.
Yeah.
No, we left on pretty good terms with most people.
I'll share something.
Oh, sure.
I just read a book, and the book was about the bad things that happen to us.
Yeah,
But the author's a psychotherapist, and she's talked with lots and lots of people. And her premise is that bad things happen to us, and we have a choice. We can rant and rave, and we are excellent at that, or we can say, what's the lesson this wants to teach
Yeah.
me?
yeah,
And so she has all these stories about what people have learned from really horrible things, like children dying, or I mean, just all kinds of things. And
Right.
and it I mean, some people find that God is in the midst of it all, and they really do have things they need to learn. I mean, we all have
Right.
things we need to learn.
sure.
But I think about that every time something happens to someone too.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, I don't know why that happened to you, but what does it have to say to me
Yeah,
in terms of how I might think about my own life?
right,
I mean, maybe it's a wake-up call that says, make sure you are taking care of yourself, because as a care partner, it's really easy
yeah,
to forget
absolutely.
that you ought to be doing all of that.
yeah,
But, and I think for each person, the lesson may be very different,
Yeah.
but if we could look at, I mean, what it says to me is, if we can look at the things that happen to us as, okay, it happened, what can it teach me?
Yeah.
Then we can walk away from the negativeness of it,
Yeah.
even though it is negative, and deal with what positive can come out of it.
Right. Those are excellent thoughts.
Which I think
Absolutely.
is a much more God way of looking at
Right.
life.
Right, I agree completely, Kathy, thank you.
I've heard that statement too. Why me? Why not me?
Yeah.
Right,
I mean,
right.
I mean, are you so special nothing should happen to
Right,
you?
right.
I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
be thankful every day.
Yeah,
I mean, one of my daughters said recently, she said, "You've never had a serious illness or an operation or anything, Mom?" I said, "No, and I'm very thankful.
yeah,
I'm extremely thankful for that."
yeah, yeah,
Because most people at 82, by the time they've reached my age, they've
Yeah.
had some,
yeah.
But you've probably had very painful things happen in your life.
oh,
And-
oh,
and
yeah.
that's-
Emotionally painful, but,
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
yeah,
and,
but physical pain.
and I think, you know, I think we look at people and we think, oh, they've had life so easy.
Mhm.
Well, people haven't had life. I mean, there are so many terrible things that happen to people that never show.
Right,
That's true.
Sure.
And,
very
and
true.
I think we
That's true.
live life pretty in a shallow way if we think.
Yeah.
Nobody but me's had something terrible
Yeah.
happen to you.
Yeah, I did a devotion recently, and I think most or all of you are aware that I do hospice chaplaincy. And every Wednesday morning I do a devotion for the staff. And there's 4 chaplains, so each of us takes a day, and there's no devotion on Friday because we've got a staff type meeting, whatever. And recently one of my devotions was about not judging other people from the standpoint that we don't know what their pain is.
Mhm.
We don't know what led them. You know, the man that robbed our car, he got caught.
Oh, did, and I
Yeah,
wondered that.
yeah. Still had Sharon's orange purse. He wasn't very bright, in other words.
Yeah.
Either that or he really liked orange. I don't know which. But, oh, I hope he likes orange. Oh, prison uniform.
Yep, yep.
Uh,
Was her wallet in it and everything?
Yeah, they have that too.
Yeah.
It was it?
yeah.
It's unusual too, they don't.
That's funny.
Oh, yeah.
Not from the money standpoint, but the driver's license, I don't know, and this and that.
But much of our prayer
Mhm.
was for him.
Yeah.
And we don't know what led him to that because there's a lot of desperation out there. We have a friend in Norfolk that has had his issues in his past and has a hard time finding a job, hard time finding a place to stay. With his past, you know, a lot of doors are slammed in his face. Now, I don't know that he's robbing anyone or whatever, but you could sure understand that if he was walking through the park and hadn't eaten for a day, you know, if he sees a picnic basket and grabs a sandwich and runs, you could understand that, right? Who among us wouldn't at least be tempted by that, to say the very least? But yeah, we just don't know somebody's background and circumstances. And you know, even if they made the mistake, and I would say in my case that a lot of what I have gone through personally, and I'm not talking about the loss of my dad or getting robbed, but a lot of it is my own fault. I come from a family of people that have high cholesterol. I figured I was kind of immune to it because for 20 years I've been taking cholesterol meds, you know, under a doctor's care, that every 6 months, you know, that my cholesterol gets checked along with my blood sugar levels, my A1C and everything. And so I just figured that I was probably not going to ever have a real problem with that. I always would shock my doctor when she'd say, well, maybe you could lose 10 pounds. And I'd say, well, maybe I should stop eating ice cream then. And she'd say, what? You're a diabetic, you eat ice cream? Yeah, I did. Not much ice cream in the house now, but
Isn't there sugar free for diabetics?
Yeah.
But it's got so much other junk in it.
Yeah, that's
You don't
right.
eat it.
It's not-
Did you ever look at the list of things that are in those? Oh,
yeah, yeah.
it's
All of our
scary.
foods have way
I mean,
too
if you
many
look at the list of all the things you can't pronounce that
Right.
are in what we call
Yeah.
food.
Yeah, right, right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The chemical wonderment. Yeah. Yeah. So I certainly have enjoyed a lot more, what's the right word, high lifestyle than what I should have to keep myself healthier. Now again, same thing might have happened even if I would have, and I've never had high blood pressure, but now I'm on blood pressure meds and no salt. Stuff like that.
Well, you got away with it for a long time.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
She did this thing for
Yeah.
a while.
And I took myself to Taco Bell for lunch yesterday. It was glorious. Better than a 2-pound steak. I mean, it was just. Is there anything else that anybody would like to share?
I'd like to share something.
Sure.
I don't know if any of y'all know Gail's older sister, Sheila, had heart transplant.
Who?
Sheila Williams, she was at one of the meetings, as a matter of fact. And she got a call this morning. We was over to Life Fitness working out, and she got a call this morning that I don't know, the doctors was rushing into her room, and she just she came and she said, "We gotta go." I was working out, I was on the machine working out.
Yeah.
Up behind and said, "We gotta go." I knew it had something to do with her sister.
Yeah.
And she was very upset. And, we just keep praying for her.
Yeah.
Life, we're just passing through.
Yeah. Yeah.
Life, the way I would look at it is life ain't for sissies.
Yeah.
Get old ain't for sissies.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
We found out last month that I have to have a stent put in each eye because I got advanced glaucoma, and
Yeah.
the stent will help take away the pressure of my eye.
Yeah.
It'll take away the pressure of my optic nerve.
Wow.
'Cause
Never
I
heard of
take-
that
I take
before.
3-4 sets of drops a day.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And,
My eye doctor checks for that every year when I go for the appointment because my grandfather had glaucoma.
and so I don't drive anymore.
Yeah.
She's got to do all the driving, and there's a lot on her.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, I quit smoking about 18 months ago.
Wow.
Good for you.
Congratulations.
Finally.
Yeah. Yeah.
After so much getting on.
Yeah.
Quit smoking about 18 months ago. Worked out at the gym,
Yeah.
go to the fitness center.
Go to
Wonderful.
One Life.
Wonderful. Yeah.
Go to One Life.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Well.
I've been blessed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gail, what's that about your sister?
Yes. My sister had a heart transplant April 1st. And she was doing so well. And if you know anything about a heart transplant, you know you won't have an immune system for the rest of your life. They're supposed to keep your immune system suppressed because if they don't, her immune system will come back up and it's going to identify that heart as a foreign object. And you go into heart rejection.
Right. Right. Right.
Well, right now she's in heart rejection. John Hopkins, I'm gonna tell you, I'm not the type of person to look at a name and say, okay, I put all my trust in y'all. That's just not who I am.
Right.
And
Right.
then
Sure.
I went in feeling really good about John Hopkins, now not so much.
Okay.
When she got home, and they ended up having to get a studio apartment right across the street because they don't like you any more than 2 hours away. So if you get infection, heart rejection, you can quickly get to them, they can treat it. So they moved right across the street. When she got home, they only kept her in the hospital a month, and then they let her home, okay? Not long after getting home, they reduced her prednisone because they said that it was making her glucose numbers go up. Now, when my sister told me this, I didn't want to come across as negative, and she sounded happy, you know what I'm saying? I didn't want to say anything, but it didn't feel right to me.
Right.
Because if you're reducing what keeps the rejection away, then why are you reducing it? Why aren't you, and I'm not a doctor, but I do believe in having common sense.
Right.
So my question was, why don't they leave the prednisone where it is and just try to work around that with the glucose? And then if you find that you can't do anything, then come up with something else.
Right.
But I absolutely do not think it was a wise decision to lower that prednisone.
Yeah. What you're saying makes sense.
So anyway, the other thing that I don't trust, and I was just talking to my sister and brother, they don't want, see, nobody likes to hear me talk because I'm a straight shooter. And I don't believe in beating around the bush. I call it the way it is. Y'all just don't want to hear the truth. And
Right.
that's the bottom line.
Right.
The second thing they did that I don't like, my sister has a history of blood clots. And when she was put on blood clots by Riverside, they told her, you will be on blood clot medicine for the rest of your life, because she had one years ago to get to her lung, almost took her out of here.
Yeah.
Well, each time before a procedure, they had to stop the heparin, which is understandable because they're getting ready to do a procedure and want you to bleed out.
Right.
But after the procedure, they would always put her back on it. Well, for some reason, I don't know why here all of a sudden lately, they did not want to put her back on the heparin. They put her on a baby aspirin.
Oh my, that's quite a jump there.
And my sister
That will prevent a.
formed 2 small blood clots, and one got to her lung.
Oh boy.
That's the second thing. And see, my siblings can talk all they want. It doesn't make sense to me. It does not make sense to me. So anyway, the third thing they did that I didn't like, because I asked my sister, why did they not put you back on your blood clot medicine? She said, because they said that in their studies that a baby aspirin, okay. So then the third thing that I didn't like was the fact that she was on 2 heart rejection medications. They took her off one. I said, why did they do that?
Right.
They said I didn't need it. Now all of a sudden, my sister started getting all this fluid, and they drained all this fluid from my sister. They told her that it was an artery that was leaking and that she would have to go on a low-fat diet and that it would heal on its own. They didn't want to do the surgery because being that she just had a heart transplant, they didn't want to take her through a surgery that soon.
Yeah.
Okay, I understood that. The fluid came back again, and it had to be drawn again. Well, now at this point, if the fluid is coming back the second time, why are you guys not trying to find out what the heck is going on?
Yeah.
And she was getting short of breath. So, at the same time they found the blood clot, I don't know, my sister said she thinks they was thinking, well, it's probably the blood clot then. I said, but Shay, she had a heart transplant. They've been taking precautionary measures, checking everything else to be on the safe side. When they found the blood clot, they should have went on and checked that heart too. That's what you should have did. So anyway, long story short, she ended up getting an echocardiogram. Her husband went on out, they went out to get something to eat, they called her back. You gotta come back to the hospital because your echocardiogram is looking totally different from last month. So she goes back to the hospital and they're like, we think you're going into heart rejection. Well, they ended up confirming that because they said, okay, when she got back to the hospital, they admitted her, we're gonna do a heart biopsy on you tomorrow because they have to get these heart biopsies to check for that. So they said, we're gonna do a heart biopsy on you tomorrow. So after I called the next day, well, they got you back in the room. They didn't do the heart biopsy. I said, why? Because they did one last Thursday and results just came in. They said they sent the results to California. That was a bunch of BS to me. So conveniently today, the results come back. Y'all don't have nowhere local that you send this, but y'all got to send it to California. I didn't believe that. I'm just sorry, it was bogus. So anyway, they went on and did the heart rejection yesterday. I mean, the heart biopsy yesterday. The day before I talked to my sister could talk. There was no breathlessness, she could talk. All of a sudden, after the biopsy, my sister was so winded she couldn't talk. Mind you, they told her the other day that she had fluid, but it wasn't enough to be concerned about. This is what they said.
Yeah.
But they drew a leader off today. And we almost lost my sister this morning.
Wow.
We almost lost her this morning. So now, y'all want to come in, and it was just funny to me because I'm like, the doctors, it's too quiet. Nobody's saying anything, okay? So The A-listers is what her husband, the A-lister doctors come in, because that's a teaching school, and I'm sorry, y'all, I got my feelings about that, because I know that they have to be taught, but I would always tell them, if I was ever at the doctor's office in there, I would tell them, no. Send me somebody give me somebody that is experienced. Well, that's how they learn. Well, they learn on somebody else. They're not learning on me.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah, they can stand back in the corner and watch the real doctor.
And I told my sister last week, don't let them use you for guinea pig. Don't let them experiment you, because they will do that. Some people have to die for their studies. Some people have to go down and do bad for their studies. Don't do this to my sister, because I'm going to tell y'all something. If y'all knew what my sister has been going through with her health since the age of 20, they would never put a trainee or an intern on my sister. And my sister deserves to live. Well, when they went in yesterday and did the heart biopsy, they could literally see the heart rejection. So then they stopped pumping all these real strong steroids that they had her on before. And
prednisone is a steroid.
Right.
So,
Put her back on.
Yeah.
You took her off of her heparin, you end up putting her back on. So every time it seems like they were taking something away, it was causing a problem. Now y'all having to put her right back on.
Yeah.
Okay, then they turned around, they put her back on the other heart rejection medicine. But then the next day, they took her right back off again because it was bringing her white blood cell count down. My thing is this: when that fluid came the third time, y'all should have really already been looking into because y'all know fluid it's never good. Having that fluid is never good. And it's not in her lungs, but it's around it. But it's so much of it, it's pushing on the lung, it's pushing on the heart. You just had a heart transplant, it's pushing on the heart, and they drew a leader out today. Yeah. Now, the doctor said this morning, well, we're going to have to probably take her to surgery because we need to pinpoint and find out where this fluid is coming from.
Right.
Which I felt they should have did the second time around.
Right.
So anyway, they took her down to the procedure, and now she's in ICU. My younger sister's up there, called to find out what was going on. They can't give her the information because you're not on the list that we can talk to. And I talked to her husband earlier this morning, and I said, please make sure you get back over at the hospital. So my sister calls him thinking he knows something. Oh, he's at home asleep. Then she calls the daughter. I don't know the number. Well, get the number. Yeah. She's always been a person to make things happen. Anything she wants, she gives you. Okay, don't say to us, you don't have the number. Get off the phone and get the number. So now we stuck up here, we don't have any answers. Well, they called me again. Come to find out that her daughter did end up calling. Well, she's on a breathing tube. And they think that they're thinking that maybe she won't be on the breathing tube till tomorrow because we found out that her lung has collapsed.
No.
Okay? So now they're trying to bring it back up. And they said that with this fluid, there's also blood in it. So now they don't want to put her on the heparin, which I can understand that, because being that it's blood in the fluid, now they got to find out where's this bleeding coming from, and they don't want to do it surgically because if they do it surgically, they're going to have to crack this back open. So now they're talking about putting her on a pill to try to fix it.
Wow.
So that's where we are now. And I just don't have no faith in Johns Hopkins. And then my brother just made me mad because he's going to sit up there and tell me no question. I said, don't tell me not to question it. I said, not when they have made decisions that made no sense. I said, because their common sense along with their expertise is supposed to come here together. You know? Yeah. I have a girlfriend.
I don't understand why they don't have, why are they not having the whole family in for consultation?
That's what you would think. That's what you would think.
I mean,
that's what you would think. And I said, you told them that you was a sister. My sister was there earlier because what happened was her blood pressure, it dropped so low, her heart, and they almost lost, she was on the monitors. That's what made them run to that room. And they had to work on her. It was like 15 people in there working on her, or more, from what I heard. It was a lot of people in there working on her. And I don't know, y'all. I wish that my sister, I say at this point, I feel like the Norfolk Hospital could have done better. Because I don't see where the decisions that they have made is anything more outstanding. Well, I think the heart hospital could have been the best sometimes. And just
Did
like
she have a heart doctor here?
But
Why don't you talk to?
But no, we already said she's not even going back because he claimed that she was doing fine. And then 2 weeks later, we find out she needs a heart from Johns Hopkins. But I just, the decisions that they have made so far, and I said, look, I wouldn't be questioning this if they had made decisions that were right for her. And then let's say they made decisions right for her and then something didn't work out. I said, but clearly, come on, y'all. I said, she needs to be on that prednisone. When you get a heart transplant, you will never ever have an immune system anymore. They have to keep your immune system suppressed.
Right.
So, because if your immune system comes back up, it's going to identify that heart as a foreign object, and then that's when the heart rejection is going to come in.
Yeah, it sounds like your sister had the medications that she needed and then they were gone.
They were gone.
Okay, I'm playing devil's advocate here because I'm thinking about my first husband who has cancer. And his local doctor is working with Johns Hopkins. But he's the one who's doing the asking all the questions and then deciding what's really best. But it sounds
makes
to
no
me
sense.
like your sister needs another medical person.
Yes.
Who's helping to look at all this and interpret it for all of you. That's why I say, where's the heart
I think
doctor?
so too, but you know what my brother just said to me? See, they don't want to hear nothing from me. They don't want to hear anything from me because I am going to question it. Because see, when somebody tells me something, I don't forget what you said the last time and the time before that, the time before that, because it has to make sense to me. Nothing that they're doing right now is making sense to me. And then my brother was telling me right now, well, don't question it, John Hopkins. I say, I keep telling y'all, keep looking at this name. Because let me tell you something. Even the best of hospitals have caused people to die. They have made bad decisions and judgments, and people have gotten worse. I said, so you can't let that name, because they're not beyond mistakes, y'all.
That's right.
They're not.
Sort of blind you.
So you can't let, and this is what I'm trying to tell them, but
You know,
when you can't question, I'm going to tell you what else he said. He says,
but you do have to question
you
it.
do have to question
I
it.
remember
Exactly.
years ago, my mother ended up in the hospital. She's dying, and nobody can figure out why. And somebody had told me about an experience where their parent or something, it sounded like the same thing, and all she needed to do was take this vitamin because it was missing from her body. And so I told my sister that. I said, tell your doctor. And the doctor said, oh, and they gave it to her, and I guarantee you she was home the next day.
see?
There has to be.
And then my brother has the
And
nerve
I
to
do
tell
not
me,
know
he has
why
the
they
nerve to
aren't
tell me right
calling.
now, he says, well, don't question because I'm going to tell you why. Because you can't send her somewhere else right now because we too late in the ball game. See, I don't feel that way. I don't. Because it's always somebody out there that know more than what you know. So I just, they don't ever listen to
Or you need
me.
to bring in another doctor.
Right. Well, they claim that the A-listers are there now because that is a teaching school. And I had asked my sister before, I said, are these interns making these decisions? She said no. But the top doctors are on it now.
But they haven't been up until now?
No. Because see, it's like a team of them.
Right.
And it's like they all get together and they talk about this. And the top doctor is not always the one that's going to come in and talk to you. And to me, a top doctor going in there, it's not the same seeing stuff for yourself as somebody coming to you and reporting things to you. It's not the same. The effect of it is not even the same.
Well, and
It's
again, it's not like she was,
Right.
it's not like she was recovering just fine and, you
Right.
feel like it's okay.
Right.
And the
Because
other,
this is just her fourth.
they're
This is
not.
just her fourth month in.
Yeah.
and the other question, Gail, what would it take for you to be able to talk to these doctors? I mean,
Oh
why?
gosh, they would be so mad at me.
Your siblings are
They would be
fighting
so
with-
mad at me. Even my sister that's having a heart transplant, she would be so mad at me.
Are you
When
on the
she
list?
dirt.
You
She-
need
when
to
she
be
dirt. Uh-uh.
Are you on the HIPAA list?
No,
I was
no.
gonna say HIPAA list or
Yeah,
a POA.
No.
Well,
But
Gail,
I have started documenting though.
Gail, next time I have these kind of problems, I want you on my side.
Right. That's right.
I'm serious because I'm
You
like,
you and Sharon together would just, and our
Because-
daughter, oh my, the three
Right.
of you,
You
wow.
have to be
Yeah.
asking questions.
yes,
You
you'll be
have to
asking
get
questions.
Yeah.
And I told my sister last week, don't let them come in here and just tell you anything, do anything, ask questions. I said, because I'm telling you, if it had been me, I'd be like, no, baby aspirin, put me back on this heparin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, if they're discovering that, okay, there's blood in it, I can understand them taking her off there for now because they've got to find out where this bleeding
Right,
is
right.
coming from.
Right.
But this was stopped before that even started. Now, all of a sudden, all this fluid is coming. Now they're saying the fluid is coming from the lymphatic system.
Well, of course, where else would it come
Right.
from? But
Why?
what's activated it?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so the thing that I don't understand is they told me this morning, okay, we're going into this procedure right now so we can pinpoint what's going on with this.
And then they didn't do it.
They still saying they don't know, they got a bind.
Yeah.
I said, I thought that was the point of them doing the procedure they did this morning. And then my other sister said, yeah, I did too, Gail. Now y'all don't know for sure. You talking about you don't know where the blood is coming from. Come on, y'all.
Yeah. And taking a pill to,
Well,
I have my doubts about that kind of thing.
Yeah.
but if they've taken her off of the rejection medicine, I mean, where is the heart starting to break down?
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
And the heart could be bleeding.
Well,
I
the
mean, I don't know.
the
Yeah,
fluid,
it's
yeah, the fluid buildup sounds a lot like congestive heart failure.
Yes.
right, which is what she had
Yeah.
when she got the transplant.
Right,
Okay.
right.
That's what she had when she got
And that
transplanted.
definitely fits with the not being able to talk and breathe. and
Yeah.
all that.
Any kind of
Yeah.
fluid is not good.
Right.
Well, with congestive heart failure, I mean, they know where the fluid's coming from, but now that they're seeing the blood in it,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
I don't know.
I'm not a doctor and I don't play one on TV and I didn't stay at a
So I
Holiday
told him, I said,
Express
okay, so
last
you know
night,
what? I'm not saying anything else to y'all. I said, but I'm telling you right now, I got my feelings, and don't tell me to question, because I'm gonna question it.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
I'm gonna question it.
Yeah.
What they saying don't make sense to me, not to question it. See, that doesn't make sense to me.
Right.
Yeah.
And even
It's
if
your
you're a
life.
doctor,
Yeah.
if you're a doctor at Johns Hopkins, every individual is gonna present differently.
Mm-hmm.
And they
Right.
have to be paying attention to the whole picture.
To
and
the
listening.
whole picture, exactly,
Yeah.
the whole
Yeah.
picture.
Yeah.
And then you just said, just a couple of days ago, oh, it's fluid, but it's not enough to be concerned about, and you drew a leader off today.
A liter of fluid. and
I
this
don't
is
know
the third
why,
time
how
that-
they can say with something like that it's not a concern.
Right.
Anytime you,
soon as
if it's a small
fluid
amount, it's
starts
still a
building up.
concern.
Sure.
Yeah.
How can you say that it's not enough to be concerned about, and then y'all drew a whole leader off today,
Yeah.
and you gonna tell me don't question it? Really?
Yeah.
That's not common sense.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm going through right now, and it's been a very emotional day. I almost didn't even come in here today, but I said, maybe, it'll help me to try to get my mind off some things,
Makes having Parkinson's and having to deal with it look like a walk in the park.
Yes, it does, it
You know,
does.
that's
it
what I
does.
say
It
to
really
the
does.
kids.
Yeah.
You know, there are times when you think
Yeah.
Parkinson's isn't the worst thing you could.
It's really not, right? Truthfully, it's not.
Yeah. Wow.
I honestly, all that cancer that my sister went through, this is worse to me. This is worse. And then I can tell that she's beginning to, and always having her faith in God. She has strong faith in God. But I could hear her the other day, like, because she was always so upbeat ever since April, just so upbeat. And now, when they admitted her to the hospital, and it was like, yes, you do. It showed traces of the heart rejection. They said, okay, we're gonna do it. When they admitted her in, we're gonna do a heart biopsy tomorrow morning. Then I called my sister. Oh, and all of a sudden the results came in from California because she had a heart biopsy last Thursday. I said she had one last Thursday. So nobody said, well, where these results are? Let's go look at the results. Did the results come in? Nobody questioned or look for it then. You just gonna say you're gonna do a heart biopsy tomorrow morning.
If they'd already done one.
Yeah.
Had already done one a week later.
So that obviously they were concerned about something, or they wouldn't have done that then.
Right. Right.
What's her name? What's your sister's name?
Sheila.
Now, how old is Sheila?
She'll be 67 August 28th.
So she's your much older sister.
She's a year older than me.
We're supposed to take
She'll
that
be
in right.
67 in August.
Okay, okay, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
August 28th.
Oh my gosh.
So, yeah, I you know.
Well,
Get back to what you were saying about, bad things that are happening to good people.
yeah,
When I got diagnosed, they told me I had Parkinson's. I said, okay, I'll deal with it. I don't question why.
yeah, yeah,
Who are you gonna question?
yeah,
You know? But I look around now, so many people got it worse than I do.
Mhm.
yeah,
I mean, I'm able to go to the gym and work out,
yeah, yeah.
drop weights on my chest.
That sounds exciting.
Sometimes need help getting back up.
Right, sure.
But, I've been
Yeah,
blessed.
yeah, last time I went to the gym, I dropped on but it was just a bar. You know, I didn't have any weights on it yet.
Well, I'm glad that we have groups like this though, because even though it's not maybe the worst thing in the world that could happen to us, it's still what we have to deal with.
Right,
And
right.
sometimes it
Yeah.
just gets you down and you need people.
It does.
That's right.
You do need people around you. You do.
And you need, at least I need to hear other people saying, yes, I understand exactly
Yes,
what you're
Mhm.
saying
Mhm.
or how you're feeling.
Right.
right.
And because sometimes
You started.
it feels like you're in a world all by yourself. Am I crazy making? You know,
Well, I feel like from an outside observer, which I've already admitted that I'm never gonna understand Parkinson's unless I have it, that part of it with Parkinson's is just the grind. People with Parkinson's live, I don't know what the average would be, 10 years,
Normal
15
lives,
years?
normal lives, like just like
Lots of people
anybody else.
living
Yeah,
20,
long
Yeah,
time.
exactly.
Mhm.
So, but that's with you every day.
Right.
And for the caregiver as well as the patient, that's with you every day in that grind.
and you have a heart attack, you have a stroke, and everybody rushes in to help.
Yeah.
You have Parkinson's and it's just,
Yeah,
Mhm.
and it's like you wonder, am I imagining things? Is that really, something really happening? What's happening?
Yeah.
It's just, I call it the nickeling and diming
Yeah.
of
Mhm.
life.
Mhm.
yeah, that's right, that's right. Well, let's close with prayer. And, Father God, I thank you so much that you hear us when we pray. Sometimes it feels like our voices don't get much above the ceiling. That's okay, because you're here in this room with us. Father, thank you for being with George. Please help him with his pain. And I just pray, Father, that he would be able to see some relief and some help. Thank you for his kids and for being with them as well. Father, thank you for being with Sheila and with Gail. And Father, again, I pray for your healing hand to be upon Sheila. And I thank you, Father, for Gail and the fire in her voice as she does the right thing in questioning. I ask, Father, that you would use her words, whether she's ever told it or not, to spur them on to better action and to more wisdom with their learning. Thank you, Father, for each one who has shared tonight, and for the blessing that we can be to one another by being together. Thank you, Father. Through Jesus we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. That's Of course, you didn't have a lot of choice because Dirk started, and
Yes,
then
it is, yeah.
I think the baton got passed to you. We're in the Olympics here, you know.